As part of the Counterfeit Kit Challenge design team, we offer inspiration to build scrapbook kits and then challenges to create scrapbook layouts. The first challenge for May is to go with a foodie theme, and while my layout today is fairly simple, I do have a hidden journaling technique to share. Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty, where I create with paper and photos in artful ways. This month, our kits were inspired by a travel theme, and I'm using this opportunity to work on these 3 albums of an East Coast trip that we took. Yes, I'm doing 3 albums on this trip, one for each of the 2 kids that were with us, and then the main family album. And I am using a lot of Vicky Bouton travel papers. And now that photo of us in front of an apple statue, we were in New York City. And since New York City is called the Big Apple, that is a little bit of my twist on this foodie theme. I do talk a little bit more in my journaling about some of the food expectations and actualities that we experienced while we were there. So that plays into the journaling just a little bit. What I'm doing with this layout isn't overly complicated because I'm trying to keep this 3-album project with largely this Vicky Bouton travel collection. I believe it's called Where To Next. I do want to use up every last scrap of paper that I've got. So I pulled out a whole bunch of scraps, and off camera, I took a lot of time arranging these scraps in layers that made sense. And I wanted to be sure to include a couple of food-centered pieces. So I've got all that going on. Off camera, I outlined everything. I layered up everything. I got a little bit of that lemon paper on there, and I put my title together. So this isn't, groundbreaking scrapbooking layout stuff. I did pull in my embellishments from the same Vicky Bouton collection. I just went with an entire collection this time around. And I am going to pull out some of these pieces that had something to do with being there in New York. We stopped at the Empire State Building, and there's a Starbucks on the ground level, and we got a Starbucks at the Empire State Building. So that was why I've got a little coffee cup there. I'm just finding other little bits and pieces to fill in nooks and crannies on this layout. I always like to leave nooks around my title so that I can do some embellishing there. And then really it's just a process of seeing if I can find enough little embellishment pieces that have to do with the journaling that I'm going to write. And sometimes the pieces will inspire a little bit of the journaling, and vice versa. The journaling I know I want to do will help inspire some of these embellishment pieces. So like this plate and fork wasn't really a big part of, we didn't do any dining really while we were there, but it definitely works with the foodie theme. This hot dog, we saw the hot dog carts on every corner and we avoided them. So that is reminded me of that part of the journaling that I can tell as part of this story. So it was just a mix and match of picking pieces that made sense. And then once I had those pieces in place, I tried to balance off color. So I really liked that plate and knife and fork sticker to go more with the foodie theme, but that was kind of the only place I had that intense black and gold going. So I tried to pick up on some other elements, and I think I ended up just going with some gold hearts and then tying everything together with some puffy hearts. So there we go. I've got my journaling on. There was some words on the background paper that I just covered up with a car because there's a little bit of that story too. Now, what I did is put an arrow there to lead into space for my daughter to add some journaling, because this particular layout is going in her album. And I don't want all of the documentation of this trip just to be from my point of view. So in my journaling, I incorporated my thoughts, and then I actually put in the wording, here's some space for you to put your thoughts. And I put that arrow right under that sentence. And I'm creating this little booklet out of tags that I cut from that tag sheet. I'm creating a little tab with this other scrap of paper, and that helps tie together the layout on the upper left side with that same color to the bottom right side, where that tab will have that bright pop of orangey yellow down there. I am building this little tag booklet with that tab and a brad. The brad wasn't part of my kit. I just went to my stash and found something that would work. And this one is black and metallic and white, and that goes with some of the other embellishment elements I have. And as it's a nice big brad, it says smile. So I think that one worked out very nicely. I was struggling with this older style of brad that the prongs kind of go wonky on me, but I finally got it in place. And I am going to, this is just a rough version of the tag, because all of those layers with the brad prongs and the little tab paper, that's going to get caught up on this pocket that I'm building and the page protector. If you don't really glue those down well, that can lead to difficulty sliding this element in and out. And I'll show you how we're going to slide it out, even though this layout will go in a page protector. And there you just saw that caught on the back of the pocket. So I am going to make sure everything's glued down, and I'm going to cut a little bit of a circle to cover up the prongs with pattern paper. And I'm sure not to glue over the prongs themselves, so that that tag has plenty of room to wiggle and move and be able to open up so you can read all of the pages. Will she need this much room? I don't know, but we can also remove some of those tags or turn them into decoration if she doesn't need that much room for her thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about how I'm going to hide this journaling, even though I'm putting this layout in a page protector. I have done this before on the channel, so if you've seen this, you will already know. But I pulled out my page protector, so this is going to be the one that this layout goes in. I'm going to lay it over the top of my layout, leaving a little bit of room so I know when I slide it in, it won't be completely flush with the edge of the page protector, because there's always some thickness to paper that doesn't bring it straight up to the edge. So I'm leaving just the ever so slight gap, and I'm going to mark this with permanent marker. Now, I realized I didn't have quite the right gap and spacing, so I erased that with some alcohol, and I'm starting again so that I can get these marks just right, just enough of a spacing to allow for that journaling. Now, what I'm going to do is stick a thick piece of cardstock. I have a scrap piece of chipboard here inside of this envelope, and we're going to cut this, I said envelope, inside this page protector. We're going to cut this page protector open. But one of the tips that I learned many years ago was to kind of make an indentation into the plastic using the tip of a click pin, but you retract the tip of the pin and you just use the circular outline of that pin and press down, and that helps kind of firm up the plastic. And if you cut at the bottom side of that firmed up circle, that helps keep the page protector from tearing as you move things in and out of it. I hope that makes sense. And I did show you the process there. So hopefully all of that made sense. Now I'm going to take out that piece because it won't fit in if I slide this in. And then I'm going to carefully, one thing I did realize is that I do need to kind of nip the edge of the page protector. Like I said, there was that little extra lip there to make sure the layout would fit in there. So I'm going to just give that a nip with my scissors, and now it leaves plenty of room for my little booklet to slide in and out, and that completes my little hidden journaling pocket so that my daughter can add her thoughts. I hope you enjoyed something about this video, and if you did, please do give it a thumbs up because that really does help my channel. I will be back soon-ish with some more videos for you, and until then, I hope you have an artful day.